Hello, hello. Welcome to today's TNN event. I'm going to give people a minute to pop in here, get set up, and then we are going to get started. I am so excited for this one. I have been looking forward to this for literally months since we started planning it. I have had the pleasure of spending time with Michelle, and I'm so glad she's here to share all about citizen science with us. So I'm going to share my screen first, go through a few housekeeping things, and then I'm going to turn it over. So give me 1 second to make sure I have all of my ducks in a row. And then let's get to it. Okay. And hold on. There we go. My computer was not cooperating. Okay, great. Welcome to the Nomadic Network and our virtual events. We're so glad you're here. TNN, if you have not been here before, the Nomadic Network is a community of travelers inspiring each other to see the world. It was originally founded by Nomadic Matt, and then it's been just over a year now, which is very exciting, that Lisa Field, who was our Portland chapter director, has taken over. We have now run, I think we have had more than 50 people on tours for the new TNN, and we are continuing virtual events. So thank you for being here. We have hosted more than 250 virtual events. You can find all of the details about websites, tours, and everything else we're up to on thenomadicnetwork.com. And upcoming tour dates, 2025 are almost full, but the 2026 lineup is up and it's pretty epic. So community tours, we've got all sorts of fun things coming up next year. Have a look. We've got some Thailand and Vietnam and the Balkans and Peru and man, a couple different trips to Mexico. So all sorts of interesting things. We hope to see you there. Follow us online. Instagram is the Nomadic Network with periods in between. We do have a YouTube channel where you can find all of the replays and register for virtual events on the website. And then, of course, we'd love to see you on community tours. So for those of you here live, we love to see your faces. So feel free to turn your video on. Please stay muted. You can use the chat to ask questions and chat with each other. If you have a question, please type question before you put it in the box so that I can keep track of it, and we will go through those at the end. So we encourage you to follow our speakers and support them. They are volunteers. They do this out of the goodness of their hearts so that they can share all of their travel knowledge and excitement with this community. So thank you in advance for connecting online. So let's have fun and enjoy this time together. I'm going to introduce, let me see. I'm going to stop sharing. Give me 1 second. I'm all over the place this morning. Okay, so this is Michelle. How do I say, is it Eyrich? Nailed it. Okay. So Michelle, I actually had the pleasure of meeting Michelle in person for the very first time at TravelCon in Memphis back in, I feel like that was 2022. Is that right? Or
No, I think
23?
it's pre-pandemic. I think it was like 20. No, maybe you're right. 20. That's the one that kept getting pushed. So yes, you might be right.
22, I think.
Yeah.
But Michelle is a freelance adventure travel writer, advanced scuba diver, and the creator behind No Place Like Rome. She's traveled to more than 85 countries, explored 13 of them underwater, and spent time on all 7 continents. She particularly loves less expected destinations and frequently travels with her favorite travel partner, her 12-year-old son. I always love seeing your pictures online traveling with your boy. So fun. So
Thank you.
I am going to hand it over to Michelle. Now I'm going to turn off my video and the floor is yours. I'm here in the
Okay.
background if you need anything.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you. I hope everyone just let me know that you can see my screen okay, Annie.
Yep, looks great.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for attending today. I'm very honored to have this opportunity to share a little bit about the concept of citizen science and really what that merger, that intersection between citizen science and travel looks like, and what does that mean for us as travelers. Um, what it means to take a vacation with purpose and what that can look like if it's your entire journey, your entire vacation, or a portion of your vacation is spent in this citizen science space. So we're going to talk a little bit about what it is, what it looks like, and how do you find, if this is something that you're interested in, how do you find valid, ethical citizen science opportunities to integrate into your travel experience. Okay, so let's move to another slide. Okay. So again, we're going to talk about this dream, what I call the dream marriage between citizen science and travel. Citizen science has been around for a little while, but this intersection with the travel space is a little bit newer. And who is this type of travel really suited for? I'm going to talk about a couple of different experiences and then what you can do to find your dream project, what that would look like. Annie has already introduced me, so thank you, Annie, for that kind introduction. Just a couple of other things I'll throw in. I started my career as a Foreign Service officer. I was posted at the U.S. Embassy in Cambodia. Did a lot of work around trafficking of women and children and human rights related topics. Also spent time at Maine State in Washington, D.C. before I moved into the corporate space. I spent the last a lot of years, I don't want to date myself, but a lot of years in the corporate space. And now spend a lot of my time as a freelance writer and content creator. I love being underwater. If I had my druthers, I would spend all of my time underwater. Unfortunately, I'm based in Dallas, Texas, so I do have to travel to get to spend time with the fishes, unless there's a really sad quarry that is full of water here to go practice skills. But that's about as close as I get when I'm here at home. I am very honored to be an ambassador for Earthwatch, who is one of the leading uh, leaders in the citizen science travel space. And I've had the great pleasure and honor of being on trips of theirs, and I'll talk about those from a personal experience standpoint. And as Annie already mentioned, I do a lot of travel with my son. We've done some of these citizen science projects together, so I grabbed a few projects here. We have replanted trees in the rainforest, learned a lot about our tree. We got to label it. We've gotten updates about how our tree is doing. We also did some work in Malaysia with sea turtle nesting. And then we get updates, or we did, now that our turtles have all hatched, but we did get updates about how many of our eggs hatched and when they hatched and when they went off into the big deep blue. So citizen science is just it has become really part of my travel experience, and I'm incredibly passionate about encouraging others to take part in it. Okay, so what does this term mean? This citizen science term that we've thrown around a lot. Um, I really love this quote because this really harnesses what is at the core of the idea of citizen science. It is something that offers the power of science to everyone and the power of everyone as a collective group to science. So it's a give and take relationship. Um, and really, at the end of the day, for all of us, what it means is it's an opportunity to make science accessible. So, if, for example, you were someone like me who had dreams of being a marine biologist and that did not play out through your career, or you had a great interest in um, conservation science, or it's just something that you have an interest in despite any other more like a hobby type of thing, it is an opportunity for you to engage in the science space. It's an incredibly powerful learning tool for young people, which is why I love having my son engaged in it at a young age. I think at the end of the day, it really helps you be more connected to a place, to a particular cause, because you now see sort of the behind the scenes of how we track data around that. How what are scientists looking at? What are the crucial problems that we're facing? A lot of those topics that are being explored that people can contribute in various meaningful ways are around conservation, climate change, biodiversity, sustainability, air and water quality. So you're digging in and partnering with scientists. So you do not need to have special skills. You don't have to have a science background. It is a way for we as regular people to contribute to science. So we get together as a group in a true citizen science project. There are scientists who are running the show, and they are looking to you to help gather data. So, what that data, it might be collecting water samples, it might be going out and observing quantities of animals in a particular space and counting them, it might be tagging them. Because at the end of the day, science belongs to all of us, and we are all impacted by all of these different things. I think what is also really beautiful about citizen science, so some of the projects that I'll talk about are a full week where you are fully immersed in it. But there are a lot of things out there that even at home in your everyday life, you can continue to contribute to citizen science. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. Now, what is it not? It is not a replacement for regular scientists. So, a way for us to contribute, but it certainly does not replace the work being done by the professionals. Instead, we are enhancing and helping them because when you think about the collective power of multiple people collecting data, so if you think about an owl population, scientists one by one going out and trying to count owls in a particular space can only do so much. But if there's 30 of us all out in a space doing it together, we can certainly gather more data. It is also not typically for profit. So it's typically something, if there is a fee involved, that is simply contributing to the costs for the scientists. For your food or housing or whatever during the project. It is also a space that is very vulnerable to greenwashing, and we'll talk a little bit about that as a marketing tactic and how I have seen it exploited a little bit. So we do need to keep an eye out for the ethics around that. Then what it also is not is just going out on safari and watching animals. There is real data being gathered. It is still very enjoyable and enriching and rewarding, but it's not just going out on tour. Now, how does this intersect with the travel space? At the end of the day, I more and more see data around how people really want to feel more connected in travel. Now, there's always going to be people who are very happy to sit on a beach with a drink, and I think there is a time and a place for that. Whatever your travel style is, this is not a place of judgment. But if you are someone who is really looking at shifting your travel dollars into a space where you have a lot more purpose and passion and impact behind the travel that you are doing, this is really a space that might excite you. It's an opportunity to really get a one of a kind experience where you are immersed in a place. And I really, at the end of it, feel very connected to that place. You really care about the people, the animals, the landscape, the agriculture in that place. It's like you've become one with the community after participating in one of these projects. So who is it suited for? Candidly, everyone. What is beautiful about this type of a project is that it really lends itself because there are no required special skills or anything like that. It's really great space for any type of traveler. But in particular, I've called out a few here that I think really lend themselves well. So they do see a lot of retirees taking advantage of this space, or people who have like longer periods of time they might be able to travel. Because if you're going on an immersive project, they're typically at least a week. Um, they're great for multi-generational travel. So I know a lot of the Earthwatch projects will see grandparents traveling and bringing their grandchildren with them. And it's a great opportunity to connect together, hands-on, doing this project, doing the work together. The other thing is it's awesome for solo travelers. Like it's safe, it's immersed. You meet a group of like-minded people, because they are there, they signed up for this thing because they're also interested and care and are passionate about this particular project. Um, there are some projects that will have age restrictions. So, for example, Earthwatch projects, kids need to be at least 15. But that's, I just showed you some pictures of other projects I've done with my son that didn't, he was, definitely younger than 15. He's not even 15 yet. So there are opportunities out there for everyone. And it's a question of kind of finding what is the right fit for you. Now, I mentioned that I wanted to talk a little bit about this concept of greenwashing and some ethics in the space. So, citizen science, and because the concept of immersive impactful travel has shown up in all these headlines, it is something that a lot of tour guides or tour companies are trying to take advantage of in their marketing. And as a result, you need to be very mindful, similar to when we talk about animal interactions and those types of experiences. We want to make sure that the projects are legit, that they are actually engaged with real scientists who are doing real science work, and that there is an equitable partnership with the local people, that it's ultimately benefiting them. And there is a consideration for their culture, for their the habitats of the animals. So, for example, if there was a project, say, that's in Alaska, we want to be mindful of the impact of the work that's being done, that it takes into consideration how the indigenous people are interacting with those animals. They may be very different than how we would look and see and interact with them. It might be if you're in the Amazon jungle that we are being respectful of the people who live there all the time, that we are working with them and partnering with them. Another real red flag that you can tell with citizen science is whether it is profitable or not. So, a lot of true citizen science projects, as I mentioned, there is a cost involved, but it's not a cost for profit. So, it's not a tour company that also tagged on citizen science. So there's a little bit of a difference. So, for example, I'll use the Earthwatch example again. Um, they have a cost involved, but actually 100% of your payment. So let's say you sign up for a $2,500 project for a week. You can actually write that off because they are a 501(c)(3) organization. It is one of the few scenarios where the cost of your travel you can do as a tax deduction. So, it is absolutely contributing back in that regard. There are also other types of projects. So, for example, last winter, I was very fortunate to spend about 3 weeks in the Antarctica region. I went out to South Georgia, and Antarctica has just like taken off in terms of more and more people wanting to visit the white seventh continent. But there are a lot of trips that are integrating citizen science projects into the trip, where people who are participating in the Arctic or Antarctica can help contribute science. So they might be doing water gathering for sampling, checking on plankton and things like that in the water. These are parts of the broader profitable tour. So it's a little bit different scenario, and something like that would not be tax deductible. So just be mindful. There are little small ones that are 501(c)(3)s, and then there are citizen science projects that are part of a broader tour company. Okay, so how do you find one? I think the best place to start is to ask yourself, what are you interested in? What are particular problems that you might be keen to explore and learn more about the science and what's being done? Whether it's a particular type of animal that's endangered or a particular habitat, a landscape. Are you wanting to try something completely new and different? So maybe you've typically been like a beach person and now you want to spend time with our tree friends. Annie and I love our tree friends. Um, or, is it something that you really want to go to the polar regions and check that out? So I think that's a really good place to start is really just what are you interested in? I think then the second thing is asking yourself how much time you have available, because obviously some of these projects will be, if you're based in the US, it might be an easy, couple of days trip as opposed to some that are, in Mongolia, you might have a much longer travel involved. Um, I'm looking at one right now that does involve scuba skills. So occasionally there are some that do involve special skills. I'm an advanced scuba diver, as I mentioned. And so, like, there are a couple that, for example, Patty does around coral restoration or where we're checking on coral bleaching and things like that. So, obviously, you would need to have some advanced scuba certification to participate in those. But most of the time they don't require that. And so a couple of them that I called out here are some of my favorites. And I want to actually call out first Happy Whale and iNaturalist because these are two that, as I mentioned, you can just do on your own. So iNaturalist is an app. You can download it. They also work very closely with our national park services in the US. And it is awesome. My son and I discovered this during the pandemic, but basically, you go out in your neighborhood or wherever you are, if you see plants, animals, insects, birds, you take pictures, you tag where you are. And it helps scientists with things like tracking migration of particular species. I love it because I'll be out in my garden and discover a bug that I'm not really sure who this guy is, and it will help identify it through AI. So I can figure out, is this bug like somebody who showed up who's not supposed to be here in Texas? We have a few of those at the moment. So it's really, really cool. It's free. And it doesn't cost you anything. It's something you can do wherever you are. So check out iNaturalist. That's an app. And then the other one I love is Happy Whale. So Happy Whale uses something that we all now have, an iPhone, or your whatever your smartphone is. It's taking advantage of the fact that we are now all photographers. And so if you are out anywhere in the world and you are doing a whale watching, whether it's just a day tour or you're in Antarctica or off the coast of Boston or you're in La Paz, Mexico, places where whales are migrating, and you get pictures of a whale's tail, you submit them to Happy Whale. And if you didn't know, the patterns that are on a whale's tail are like a fingerprint. They're unique to that particular whale. And so when you submit these, the scientists collectively around the world are tracking these whales. So it helps with data around like where are they migrating to? Where have we previously seen that particular whale? Does it have a baby with it now? How old are these whales? How are they surviving? Are we seeing them thriving? So it's really collective data over a long period of time. And then I've already mentioned Earthwatch. They run, longer programs. We'll take a look at. You can take a look at those. Exodus Adventure. They don't run sole citizen science projects, but they do integrate them into many of their tours. So you can check out. They have a special link that you can see which tours have a citizen science project involved. Um, and then the Polar Collective is another one that does a lot of work in the polar regions. So those are just a couple of them. I'm happy to give other suggestions if you want to email me after this. But these are some of the key ones that I think are kind of top of the list. Okay, So I'm reaching the end of my 20 25 minutes of presentation here. So here's some contact info where you can find me. As Annie mentioned, I write under No Place Like Rome. That is my blog site, and I include a lot of information there. You can find me on all the socials at NPL Rome, ROAM. And then my ocean related stuff, as I mentioned, so passionate. You can find me at dallas.scuba.gal. I do a lot of volunteer work for a nonprofit called Sharks for Kids, where I go out and do shark education classes and things like that. So that all very ocean focused shows up on the other page. Um, so, with that being said, before we say goodbye, in order to thank you all for participating today, I actually have a gift from Earthwatch. So I am excited to announce that I am going to be partnering very closely with them as an ambassador going forward. And I am able to offer a discount. So if you'll scan this and you can sign up and get a code for $100 off your very first Earthwatch expedition. And if you go to their website and scroll through, you'll see that they've got so many different interesting things going on. They've got an orca opportunity. They've got sea turtles. They've got owls. They've got butterflies. They've got tree related things. There's so many different interesting projects. As I mentioned, there's one in Mongolia that I've really got my eye on. But check them out. Again, the cost of your expedition is tax deductible if you are a US based um, person, and you can get $100 off. So I'm sorry, not $100. I apologize. 10% off. So it actually, depending on the cost of your expedition, it is a greater discount than $100. I apologize. So go ahead, scan this, sign up, and you can get 10% off your very first expedition. So with that, I will stop sharing. I can put this back up on the screen in a minute if everyone has had a chance to scan it. But thank you, Annie, and I'm happy to take questions.
Oh my gosh, this is so interesting. I'm like that I could listen to you talk about this for at least another hour. Like, tell me all the things. Um, I am so curious about, so first, what is this Mongolia one that you have your eye on?
It's something to do with a particular animal that is highly endangered. And Mongolia has been it Antarctica was the number one thing on my bucket list. I was very, very lucky to fulfill that bucket list dream this past December. So the next thing on my bucket list now is Mongolia. And so when I saw the intersection of those two things on one of the projects, I was like, oh my God, yes, please. So yeah, that's you go to their website, go to the Earthwatch catalog, and you'll see it there. So we could sign up together.
I know, I'm afraid. I'm like, I'm gonna go to this website and be like, and now this is what I'm doing with my life. Great, cool. I would love to know what are some of, like, I know you've taken your son on some of them. I'm assuming you've also done some of them on your own.
Yes.
What are some of your, like, what have been some of the most impactful ones as far as for you personally, but where you also felt like the science that you were involved in was also going to make a big difference?
Yeah. I think I would say that I felt that way about all of them, because they're all doing different things. But I will say, so my son hasn't been on an Earthwatch project because he's not old enough yet. So the ones I've done with him have been more like broadly part of a different tour, or just like a 1 day thing. Like we were in a place and I was able to tag that into our bigger itinerary. Um, but for me, one of the most memorable is the trip that I did with Earthwatch to Sarasota, Florida. I did shark tagging. And so this particular project, um, all of us who are divers or in like the ocean space, Moat Marine Laboratory and Aquarium is based in Sarasota, Florida. And this is like a really well-known area for doing shark research, but there is a data collection that they've been doing for like 30 years. And that's the important thing about continuing science, right? Is because you can go out one day and collect data, but it doesn't really tell a story. You need to collect that data over time. So the work that I did on that shark tagging project was part of, I felt like I was joining like a history of people who had done that research in years before me. Like I was joining this club, and that I was leaving my by doing that work and helping those scientists, I was leaving a footprint with that. I also, even though I've been diving for so long, I can't say I've ever like straight up just like stuck a hose in a shark's mouth. So the way this project works is you work in a team, you have very specific roles, and you really understand like the effort level that goes into tagging animals like sharks is unbelievable. Like there is a lot of work involved, and mostly because you want to make sure at the end of it the animal is still okay and thriving. So you all know your role, and we do it very quickly and fast. So we're pulling in like 12-foot bull sharks and tiger sharks, and I was like, okay, like I've been in the water with them, and weirdly I'm not bothered at all by that. But pulling them up onto the back of the boat, and like, one person is taking a little DNA sample of the dorsal fin and someone else is putting the tag on. And, my job on one of them was to put the hose in the mouth, because as long as you keep that water on their gills, they can keep breathing for a few minutes. So they're good. So there's like all this going on. And this guy, and the other thing about sharks is they get catatonic. They go into this catatonic state when you flip them over. So it's like this huge guy is like laying here on the boat. So that was wild. That was a project I will never ever forget. Um, the other one that I think I really loved, that sea turtle nesting one that I did with my son, because it was such a special experience. We had sea turtles coming onto the beach and laying their eggs at night, and to witness that as a mother myself, like it was like spiritual. And you really, you had this enormous sense of responsibility to like, you saw this nest getting laid, you want to protect it. And we then sponsored the nest. I paid like some money that goes towards like a donation towards that nest. And then they send me the updates. So my nest was 75 eggs, and then they sent me like photos and stuff of when it hatched and the release of those little guys. We also got to release some other ones that night that were ready and hatched. So and you're just there and you just want to cheer for all of these little guys running down the beach. Like it is tears of joy. Like you just, it's amazing. It really is. And like I said, you just feel so connected to that place afterwards, because there's something about that emotional involvement. Um, and you really can see like, okay, if I was driving a little 4x4 on this beach and had no idea that these eggs were here, this is the kind of damage that can happen. So you just have a deeper understanding about the implication of things that you do, I think.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Like that just totally gives me goosies. I would, yes, sea turtles would be probably near the top of
I
my list.
mean, who
That would be
doesn't love
so
sea
cool.
turtles?
Right? Like who didn't watch Finding Nemo and fall in love with all of the sea turtles? I sure did. Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. And yes, I mean, as a nature lover myself, all things with the forest and I've I know you are an ocean bound, and the idea of, I mean, I have been snorkeling like one time. So yeah,
Get you out there, Annie.
I
We got to work
know
on that.
the idea of scuba diving is like, I feel like I have a massive amount of respect for the power of the ocean. And so it kind of freaks me out a little bit to like the idea of just being totally immersed. So I know who I'm calling for that. Um, do you have any upcoming citizen science trips in the works or planned?
Don't. I'm kind of finishing out this year, maybe a little bit more land-based related things. I my next trip, I actually leave next week. On Thursday, I'm headed to Madagascar. And and I'm going to be there for about almost 2.5 weeks. It's not a citizen science project, but I do hope to have like, I mean, I'm sure it'll just be an amazing time regardless, but I do have a couple of free days that I haven't filled in yet. And the whales have arrived. That is a big the humpback, actually something like 20 to 30% of the humpback population in the world migrates through that area. So, and I have been watching it closely because this is the time of year and the whales have arrived. So I've got like 4 solid days of diving and we'll see how that goes. But as far as a citizen science project, I don't have another one for 25 right this minute, but I don't have a full calendar yet. So we'll see how that but hopefully for 26 for sure.
Okay. Seeing a humpback in the wild is near the top of my bucket list. So I am fortunate enough to be here in the Pacific Northwest, and I have been reading about the best places to go and when to go to do this and see. And I have never heard of Happy Whale, so thank you for that.
Oh, it's incredible. And like it's there's so many of these different ones, like again, you don't have to travel to help contribute to citizen science. There is this beautiful intersection. But even when those of us are wherever we are, like tracking monarchs, I live in Texas, the monarch population migrates through here. And so Monarch Watch is another one that you can just do wherever you live and contribute to that. Annie, now that you're up in the Pacific Northwest, you do have whales up there. So if you even are on the shore and you catch pictures of it's the tail that they need, you just get a clear shot. It doesn't have to be some, like professional grade situation, but these are things that just in our everyday we can contribute to. And so, it is really, I think, um, I think what's at the core of it for me that I hope people take away from this is that it builds that greater connection to why we should care and how we are all impacted by, you know, quality of the air we breathe in the place that we live and things, the water that we drink and our water supply. And we are very fortunate. I'm sitting in Dallas, but I'm going to Madagascar, which is one of the poorest countries in the world, and they have a drought a lot of the time. And so these things impact regardless of where you are. And I think understanding these projects, whether you do one that is a really immersed week long or you do something from your house, you start to be a little bit more aware and a little bit cognizant and a little bit more observant of what's going on. My son and I set up there was like a dead part of our garden that we set up as a butterfly garden during the pandemic. And so here I am now, it's like multiple years in, it's like awesome. It's I name them, like I named the caterpillars. I had two of them like this year we're doing boy bands. So the current five are the Jackson Five, and two of them went to chrysalis last night. So every day we're like glued to go check on them. But this is something right here in my house, and I track like how many butterflies are hatching. If you really get into it, you can actually try to tag them. They have little teeny tiny tags that they put on monarchs. And that's how they're determining the population. So yeah, there's crazy. You can get really
You can get nerdy. Like
yeah,
I
you get real nerdy about it. Like Marlon and Tito, I'm pretty sure will be chrysalis tonight. And Michael, when I looked, Michael Jackson had already assumed the J position this morning. So I know he's going to be chrysalis by the end of today. So, And then I had 3 new babies who are the Supremes this
Oh, I
morning.
love it. Yes. I have in over the last year and a half, a friend of mine introduced me to Merlin. I have
Yeah.
become a bird
Oh,
nerd over
yes.
the last year and a half, and it is my favorite. I recently had a mama robin build a nest just outside my office window. And so I spent like a whole month watching this unfold. Like I would be on Zoom meetings like this, and next thing you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Because
Yeah.
mama would fly in and I got to watch two baby birds take their very first flight. Um,
Wow.
it was totally one of those moments, like rooting for them and like the emotional involvement in this little bird family. And I
Yeah.
want these little babies to go on. And I find that, and I am very fortunate that I have like a national wildlife refuge, like a 10-minute drive from the house. So
Yeah.
that's like um, it's a river delta. So it's a wetland, it's birds coming through all the
Wow.
time. And so like, depending on the tide, on the time of year, it's a totally different experience. But I have found that, yeah, like now I pay so much more attention. Like I've always been here for my tree friends, but I find myself paying more attention to the birds. And I just think that like we humans get so busy in our buildings and day-to-day lives that it's easy to forget our connection to nature, that like we are part
Yeah.
of this bigger thing. And so I love this as a way to maybe to just, yeah, even in your own backyard, to remember that, oh yeah, there's this whole other
There's a
world
lot going on.
happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know, Annie just mentioned Merlin. So what Merlin is an app that similar to iNaturalist, but it's audio. And so you can turn it on and it based on your geolocation, it has bird calls. And so you can turn it on and it can track out different birds that it hears in that moment where you are, and it will tell you the different species. But what is also like absolutely fascinating, like if you go to somewhere that is a very dense forest where there's multiple bird calls, it's like this audio wave lines, right? And you can see it will split them out and it can identify the different bird species, and it is unique to that place. So I was in Bhutan last year and I was on the very famous hike to Tiger Nest Monastery, and you're in through the forest through part of it, and I was like, gonna turn on Merlin and see what's up. And it worked. So as long as you have like reception, it will capture it, and it is like telling me all these different species that I'd never heard of, or I didn't know what they were in Bhutan. So it really functions unique to that place. It's a super cool app, and you can get all kinds of nerdy about birds. But even if you don't want to be nerdy, it's just like you might think it's to the untrained ear, it's very hard to distinguish different bird calls, and especially when you get in those dense places. And so when you see this split out and it tells you, oh, there's 10 different species of birds you're hearing right now, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, wow. And also, your lousy eyes and the big tall trees, you can't even see them. So you're just like, what's going on here? So yeah, I love Merlin. It's a really cool app. And I love how technology has helped, like, you know, there's a lot of bad things about technology, but the good ones like this are really advancing this kind of opportunity. And then this lends itself very easily to the travel space, not only enhancing your travel experience yourself, but what you can learn about a place so much more than you used to. So it's super cool.
It is. I did the same thing when we went to Costa Rica. I had my Merlin and I was on a quest to find to see a quetzal that like I never get to see these. Like never in a million years did I imagine that I would be that person who's like, we are going to this place and I'm gonna see this bird. But it's been so fun. And like when I go out to Nisqually is our wildlife refuge here. Yeah, like I will do my checklist and then I can submit it to for science. That's what I was. I'm like, I get to be a scientist today. Like I get to send this and it goes to Cornell and they
Yeah.
track all of these things. And it has been so much fun. And so I'm very much looking forward to the day when I get to take a whole trip kind of focused on this. So,
One
um,
thing I maybe didn't mention, like if you go on one of these trips, it's not 100% of your time like you're out there doing science things. Like I do want to make sure that I call out that if you're on an actual citizen science trip, um, that there is a balance. You still have free time. You still build camaraderie with the other people in your tour. In fact, I think it's a deeper bond because, like I said, you know that you're with like minded people who already had an interest in that place. So it's not, it's, you're doing all that science stuff and that very important work, but you're also getting time to explore and do the other things too. So I don't want to fail to mention that.
yeah, that is good to know. And yeah, I imagine it is a deeper bond because of the like-mindedness, but you're also working together. You're participating in this activity together to do, the sciencing.
Teamwork, like, now you all have this vested interest collaboratively in that sea turtle nest or the trees that you planted together in that particular space, and then you see something in the news about that place and you feel differently about it when especially if it's something that's negative about that place, like a natural disaster or something, because you've been there and you feel connected to the earth and the people and the nature there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, I think we feel that way in travel generally, like when you hear about a place that you've been. I'm curious, having done some of these trips and working with other people, have you built like friendships? Do you still stay in touch with some of the
Oh
people that
yeah.
you, yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, especially that shark tagging one, because I was the only diver in that group. Most people on the trip were like you, where they had barely been snorkeling, leave alone like to then now get that close to sharks. And yeah, that group, we still talk all the time. And especially, you just kind of get, oh, we have a WhatsApp chat group still. It's been like 2 years since I did that trip. And, we see something about Moat, like Moat just did they rebuilt and redesigned and had like new buildings opening up they're in the news and you see something and you just feel inclined to send it to each other because you know that those people care about it too. Eugenie Clark is the famous woman who started the shark research there. She's like the poster child for females doing shark science. Very, very famous. And right after we were there, they put out a US stamp with her on it. And so, of course, I went and nerded it out and bought 50 of these stamps. And then I was like sending these stamps to the other people from my trip. And so, yeah, it's for sure I have stayed in touch with several people from the different groups and the people on the ground too, because the local people who are helping to facilitate the project. So, like I mentioned, the team on the ground with the sea turtles. I've continued to email them. It's been, I think, 2 or 3 years since Thomas and I were there for that trip, and messaging them, and hey, like how many successful nests? Like, what did the numbers look like this year? What species of turtles showed up? Because turtles come back to where they were born to lay their eggs. They will return to that place. And that's why it's so important to protect the spaces where those nests are. Because if like that shore then becomes somebody's house on the coastline, there's nowhere for that turtle to come back and lay the eggs. So there's things like that that have a real impact. And so I do keep in touch with the folks, the teams on the ground too, to talk about how's it going over there. What's it looking like? Are things improving, the same? Are there problems? Because just I feel so connected to it.
I love that. I love that I mean, yeah, obviously there's the science part, but the connection to the place, to the nature, to the people that you're working with, both the locals and the other people who have showed up to do this. I mean, yeah, now I'm like, okay, Earthwatch, I'm looking at you.
Well, we'll flash it back up one more time for you,
Yes, please
Annie.
do.
So for anybody who
Mhm.
wants 10% off, that 10% discount is a lot. So here is the link. You can just scan that with your phone. And if it doesn't work, message me. I'll send you it, the promo code. But sign up and you will get 10% off of whichever one you pick as your first expedition.
Love it. I'm so excited. Thank you so
Okay.
much for being here, for sharing your knowledge and your experience with this. This was amazing. I'm going to just run through a couple more slides at the end here, but man, I was so excited that you were going to do this and that I was going to get to host it. And it was the perfect treat for my Thursday morning. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yes, let me get back to, hang on, computer. One moment, please. Okay, let's see. Share. Okay, we do. Okay, perfect. You can see this?
Yes.
Great. So we do have some more events coming up. We have every month we host a happy hour, which is just a very casual, let's get together, talk about travel. It's one of my favorite things. So we're doing that coming up at the end of this month. For September, we have a presentation about Mexico City, which is one of the places we're going twice next year. And then we have our September happy hour. And then I will just tell you, we are going to also, we're having some little in-person pop-ups happening. I'm going to be in Toronto at the beginning of October and hosting a pop-up there. So if you are in Toronto, check the website and come hang out with me for a couple hours, have some drinks and talk travel. So those are upcoming events. The rest of our tours for 2025, Greece is happening next month. I think there's still a spot. Peru, same, happening in October, and then Morocco in November. And then that, I mean, can you believe how fast we are like speeding toward the end of the year? I can't even wrap my head around it. I'm already seeing fall colors happening. Oops, wrong way. So thank you again so much for joining us. Michelle, thank you so much for being here. For all of you, I hope to see you at our next event. And that's all for today. So thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.